Hello and welcome to Leaps and Lore with Meg. For today's video, I figured I would go through and tell you some stats about my library and talk about all of my TBR books that I need to read. I just recently went through and updated all of my owned books on StoryGraph and made sure that I was as accurate as I could be with my shelves and make sure that I got all of them accounted for. And now I have a complete catalog of my shelves, what I own, what I haven't read, what I need to read, and more importantly, all of the stats that come along with that, because StoryGraph has some really cool features when it comes to tracking your stats and that kind of thing. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the stats, and then I think at the end of the video I'm going to end it off by going through and reading off the titles of every single book that I own that I have not read yet. So that way I can kind of have a tally of that and understand what I can be doing better about in the future. So the first stat I can go over is I own 455 books, and that covers 196,205 pages that are on these shelves here. I do have a couple of special edition books that are in my front room and that kind of thing. I did not count those into this. I maybe at some point will add those into this, but they're not in this yet. It apparently takes me an average of 11 days to finish reading a book. I don't know how accurate that is because I am not the best at remembering to fill in and check off my stats and when I finish reading a book. My highest rated moods as far as my reading goes is adventure, dark, emotional, and mysterious. I was kind of surprised that mysterious was thrown in there, but I definitely understand that adventure is my number one mood when it comes to books, just because I think that's the number one mood when it comes to fantasy and sci-fi, and I love a good adventure story, so that is definitely highly up there for me. When it comes to length of books, the majority of my books, 56%, are between that 300 to 500 page mark. 27% is over 500 pages and 17% is under 300 pages. So I definitely fall into that main grouping of a good standalone length book is one of the things I love the most. But I definitely have some of those bigger epic series in here as well. Next is nonfiction versus fiction. I wish that this was a little bit more level. I definitely read more nonfiction than I own, but I only have 9% on my shelves are nonfiction and 91% fiction. I think that's definitely something I want to kind of focus on this year and see if I can get more nonfiction books onto my shelves. I actually just hauled about 5 of them that are here. I'm going to be doing a book haul again soon, so you'll be able to see those coming up. Next, when you look at genres, I think it's not surprising that fantasy is my number one genre. It's definitely the one that you can see the most on my shelves, and it's the one I read the most. Science fiction is my second, and it's surprisingly, I always say science fiction is probably one of my favorite genres, but I don't own a ton of it. And I definitely need to fix that because some of my favorite books are science fiction, and I need to get more into it, which is why Tome of Infinity and Beyond is so important to me. Because I feel like science fiction gets overlooked so easily when it comes to mainstream book talk and book publishing in general. Fantasy is definitely the more popular genre, but I love science fiction, so I definitely need to do more of that. I was surprised that young adult was my third genre, which I don't even know if I really count that as a genre. It's more of an age audience thing. I do wish that maybe StoryGraph would separate that out differently and have an adult, young adult, middle grade type of scenario. But I think the reason why this is so high is I have kept so many of books that I've read throughout high school and into early 20s that were definitely young adult. And I only have the ones that I really enjoyed from that time. So I don't have very many young adult on my TBR. So those are mainly all read, which is really cool. If you look down, science is my top nonfiction category, which totally makes sense. I adore science nonfiction, and I'm definitely getting more into the nature, natural history portion of the science nonfiction, and really enjoying that. Next is the read versus unread. Thankfully, I have read more than I have not. I I'm at 54%, 46%. So that is really, like, I was tickled with that because I thought for sure I had more unread than read books. But I just squeaked in. So I do need to read more of these. I have 209 books on my TBR that I own. So it is so many, and I definitely need to go through and fix that because I feel overwhelmed sometimes with the amount of choices that I have on my shelves, which is both a good and bad thing. But I feel like I can't go out and try new things from like the library and stuff like that because it's like I have so many I need to read at home already. I will say that I know there is probably about 15 of those that I don't think I'm going to read, but they're on there because either I loved like another book about that author, and so I've gotten this one, and it seems silly to unhaul it at this point. Maybe at some point I'll run out of room and I'll have to start making those decisions, but for now I am not. And then there's quite a few like middle grade series. I'm looking at Percy Jackson in particular when I say this, that I've read the first book, but I just read it too old and I didn't get into it enough to want to continue on with the series. But I do have all the books because my daughter is getting to the age where she's going to start getting into those, so I want to have those for her. We are looking at getting a bigger bookshelf for the kids' rooms. That way I can move some of these on to their room and get them off of my shelf. So I am holding out some of those middle grades that I have picked up and not necessarily read all of them for them to have for their library. And the final stat I was going to look through is my star rating. I have rated 236 of the books that I have on my shelves, which I don't know why the rating is quite that low. Apparently there is some that I have not rated because I've read 245 books. So you think I'd have 245 reviews? So I need to look into that at some point. But my average rating is a 3.87, which I think is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I have 31 5-star books, 22 4.5, 10 4.25, 71 4-star books, 11 of the 3.75, 36 that are 3.5, 6 that are 3.25, and 45 that are 3-star. I do have 2 books that are 2.75, one that is a 2.5, and one that is 2. And honestly, at some point, I will probably end up unhauling those unless they're part of a series where the rest of the series has a higher rating. I don't know off the top of my head which books those are, but those probably will be going on at some point soon. So I think that is it for this portion of the stats. I'm now going to start going through the 209 books that I own and need to read. So starting to read these books off, I'm going to go by author, last name in order. So the first up, we have The Human Age, The World Shaped by Us, The Girl in the Tower, The Winter of the Witch, and The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden, The Year of the Flood by Margaret Atwood, Crooked Kingdom, The Familiar, and Ninth House by Lita Bardugo, When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill, Shorefalls and Locked Lands by Robert Jackson Bennett. Oh, also The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. Spineless, The Science of Jellyfish and the Art of Growing a Backbone by Julie Burwald, Three Dark Crowns and One Dark Window by Kendar Blake, One for My Enemy, The Atlas Paradox and the Atlas Complex by Livy Blake, Dark Age and Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. I've actually read Dark Age, but I put it on my to-read because I want to reread it before I get to Lightbringer. A Song of Wrath and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown, Clytemnestra and Babylonia by Costanza Cassasiti, The Illuminaries by Eleanor Catton, The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarifi by S.A. Chakraborty. I also have The City of Brass and the River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty, A Psalm for the Wild Built, A Prayer for the Crowned Shy, and Records of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers, Piranesi by Susanna Clark, Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. This is one I probably will not read and at some point will decide to get rid of, if I'm being honest. Next is A Shadow Bright and Burning and A Poison Dark and Drowning by Jessica Clueless. And then we have pretty much the entire series of The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. I'm not going to read all of the titles, but I've read book 1, so I have book 2 to 9 to go through and read. Also by James S. A. Corey is The Mercy of the Gods. Then I have Five Broken Blades by Maya Corlin. I have the science book, which is a DK Publishing Big Ideas book. I have House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. I have Blood Witch and Witch Shadow by Susan Dennard, and then I also have The Luminaries by her. The Dagger and the Flame by Catherine Doyle. The Curse of Saints by Kat Dramas. The Logic and the Universe by Kimmy Seal. The Universe Speaks in Numbers, How Modern Math Reveals Nature's Deepest Secrets by Graham Farmello. The Pillars of the Earth, World Without End, and A Column of Fire by Ken Follett. Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Diana Gabaldon. Timekeepers, How the World Became Obsessed with Time by Simon Garfield. Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I did not realize that was the same author. The more you know. The Queens of Annis Lear by Tessa Grattan. The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. Masters of Poisons by Andrew Hairston. Mythology by Edith Hamilton. I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. The Gospel of Loki by Joanne M. Harris. Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. Wayward by Amelia Hart. And then I have The Love Hypothesis, Love on the Brain, and Love Theoretically by Ellie Hazelwood. Descendant of the Crane by Joe He. In Light Years There's No Hurry by Marjolaine Van Hemestra. How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. Dune by Frank Herbert. Assassin's Apprentice and Assassin's Quest, and I need to get the second book in this series by Robin Hobb. Sister Song by Lucy Holland. The Wanderers by Meg Howry. Raybearer and Redemptor by Jordan Ilfoigo. The Will of the Many by James Allington. Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. The Obelisk Gate, The Stone Sky, The City We Became, and The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. A Fate in Blood by Danielle Jensen. In These Hallowed Halls, which is a short story collection by various authors. Fairy Tale by Stephen King. In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Klune. Empire of the Damned. Storm Dancer and Singer by Jake Kristoff. Babel by R.F. Kuang. Grey Sister, Holy Sister, The Girl in the Stars, and The Girl in the Mountain by Mark Lawrence. The First Sister by Lyndon A. Lewis. The Three Body Problem by Jingxin Liu. The Grace of Kings, The Wall of Storms, The Veiled Throne, and Speaking Bones, which is the 4 books in the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. Red Seas Under Red Skies and The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch. The Ruin of Kings, The Name of All Things, The House of Always, The Discord of the Gods by Jen Lyons. When We Were Vikings by Andrew David MacDonald. The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsky. A Feast for Crows, A Dance with Dragons, and Fire and Blood by George R. R. Martin. The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. The Pairing by Casey McQuestion. Hunt the Stars by Jesse Mahalik. Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro. Elric of Mellenborn by Michael Moorcock. The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. Gideon the Ninth and Hera the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Until the Last of Me and For the First Time Again by Sylvia Duval. Bronze Drum by Fong Nguyen. Born a Crime, Stories from a South African Childhood by Trevor Noah. Ithaca by Claire North. Spinning Silver, A Deadly Education, The Last Graduate, and The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik. Everything All at Once, How to Unleash Your Inner Nerd, Tap into Your Radical Curiosity, and Solve Any Problem by Mel Nye. The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. A Promised Land by Barack Obama. The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. Too Like the Lightning by Ada Palmer. And then I have Murtagh, Inheritance, The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm. To Sleep in the Sea of Stars and Fractal Noise by Christopher Paoloni. I have softly DNF To Sleep in the Sea of Stars. We'll see if I actually decide to go back and finish that. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Ruination by Anthony Reynolds. And then it's The Sea of Monsters, The Titan's Curse, The Battle of the Labyrinth, and Percy Jackson, The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan. Packing for Mars and Gulp by Mary Roach. Black Sun and Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse. Every Living Thing, The Great and Deadly Race to Know All Life by Jason Roberts. Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. A River Enchanted and a Fire Endless by Rebecca Ross. The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. Contact by Carl Sagan. And then you have all my Brandon Sanderson books that I still need to read. I need to finish off the full Mistborn series, so I have 6 books in that series to finish off. The main 2 being The Will of Ascension and The Hero of Ages. And then I also have Starward and Starsight, the first 2 in that series. I also have Tress in the Emerald Sea, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and The Sunlit Man. All of which are some of his Secret Project standalones that I still need to read. And then I have Locked In, The Android's Dream, The Collapsing Empire, The Consuming Fire, and The Last Colony by John Scalzi. I have The Archived, The Near Witch, and The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. Star Talk, Everything You Ever Need to Know About Space, Travel, Sci-Fi, the Human Race, and the Universe and Beyond by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Witches Steeped in Gold by Sienna Smart. The Planets by David Sobel. Heidi, Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen. God Blind by Anna Steffens. The Boneshard Daughter and the Boneshard Emperor by Andrea Stewart. The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Shuri. 7 Blades in Black and 10 Arrows of Iron by Sam Sykes. Children of Time by Andrian Toshkanowski. Holly Pox, The Hunt for Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. Letters from an Astrophysicist by Neil deGrasse Tyson. To Infinity and Beyond, A Journey of Cosmic Discovery by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Lives We Sing to the Sea by Sarah Underwood. Space Opera by Catherine M. Valente. The Phoenix King by Aparna Verma. Network Effect by Martha Wells. The Foxglove King by Hannah Winton. The Road of Bones and Kingdom of Claw by Demi Winters. Heavenbreaker by Sarah Wolfe. White Horse by Erica T. Worth. Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yaros. Version 0 by David Yoon. And then the New York Times Book of Science, more than 150 years of groundbreaking scientific coverage by the New York Times. That is all of them. I hope I didn't miss any, but that is my full TBR and all of the stats for my channel. Maybe next year I'll do another one of these so that way it kind of can see and track how my stats are changing and how my TBR is changing, and if I've read a bunch of these, if I've added a bunch, everything like that. So if you have any of these that you've read and they're your favorite books, please let me know. I would highly like to know which are your favorites. And that is it for me today. So I hope you enjoy. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy reading, stay cozy, stay crafty. Bye.